For a long time, Australia was, by virtue of being so far away from everywhere, for the first 150 years worth of its history, its cultural history, it took 6 months for news of something new to reach here by boat. And that's only if it was coming in kind of with some kind of urgency. Usually it took at least a couple of years for ideas to come here. Because it took so long just to physically bring the idea here. And usually it relied on someone from the colony going to where the thing was, seeing it and coming back here. Because there's no profit in someone in London sending an idea to Australia. It costs so much to do anyway that there's no point. But if someone from here goes there and brings it back, it can work a lot more. So we've built ourselves a kind of tradition of doing that for innovation.
And not trusting our own artists.
Yeah, and have a bit learnt from that as a pattern to not trust our own artists. And also that, again, speaking from a kind of cultural industries point of view, I don't know so much for like business industries, etc. I would suspect it's same, but I can't say with any authority. But for the cultural industries, there is development time that happens overseas that we don't see. When stuff comes here, it's finished, it's polished, it's touring because it works. And over the 150 years worth of making culture here in Australia, from that kind of tradition, we have learned that a thing works or it doesn't. And we're not interested in spending the time to develop a work the way it should be developed. Again, with the theatre work, you would tour it around the regions before you took it to the major cities. You would get it right before you risked it on the big audience. We don't do that. And not only do we not do that, it's impractical for most shows to do that here. Yeah. But we can, because we've got games, unlike a show, are reiterable, right? Like you can change them, you can play them again, you can reskin them, you can use what makes them unique without burning them out. So we get a lot of development time on our work. But it's very hard to have new things grow here because we don't trust the Australian voice. Or whatever we think the Australian voice is. And a lot of that comes down to straight up colonialism, right? And post-colonial attitudes to the value of what it is to have an Australian voice. Because for the entire 200 years worth of colonised Australia's history, the voice that was important, the voice that had authority was centred in London.
Yeah, the voice from overseas.
Yeah. Culture happens at the centre of culture, which is London, and we're as far away from the centre of culture as you can possibly get, so it's more savage out here. That's a complicated kind of history of what happens to colonised countries. You can see it in traces of it in India, you can see it in Canada, you can see it in Ireland and places like that. And there's a whole post-colonial literature studies that talks about why that